This video is sponsored by Keeps. OnePlus phones used to be my dream phone. OnePlus forgot the purpose of its existence. It isn't the stock Android flagship They are lost as a company. Totally disappointed in what they've become. It feels like they just make rebadged Oppo. Just another kinda cool Chinese phone. Over-promising and under-delivering. I feel disconnected from the brand. R.I.P. OnePlus. So, this isn't a video I really thought I would make. I mean, I've been a fan of OnePlus for years. I mean, how could you not love the scrappy, never settle startup that promised to stick it to the big guys like Samsung and Apple? I mean, one of the smartest things that OnePlus ever did was from day one, they started with that laser focus on enthusiasts. Now, sure, OnePlus had their fair share of issues. I mean, they certainly didn't have the best cameras, but when you consider that you had clean software, a high-end processor, great performance, and you had all of that while paying a fraction of the price of a new Galaxy or a new iPhone, I mean, the appeal, it wasn't hard to understand. But things have changed a lot in the last few years. So what really pushed me over the edge into making this video was the recent discovery that OnePlus has been secretly nerfing the performance of their latest flagships. Now, OnePlus is not exactly a company that has a clean track record. I mean, they've certainly got up to some shenanigans in the past when it comes to benchmarks. So you're probably familiar with how OnePlus sends out phones to reviewers to take a look at, right? A lot of companies do this. However, in the past, some of these phones were slightly modified to deliver higher speeds than the retail units. In some cases, OnePlus have actually shipped devices that could recognize when you were running a benchmark and crank the CPU all the way up to 100%, which is not something it could do for pretty much anything else. Recently, a non-tech discovered something much more nefarious. OnePlus are running the phone at a lower performance level than it's advertised as. So to understand why this matters so much, we've got to take a quick detour into Nerd Town. So OnePlus uses the Qualcomm Snapdragon 888 chip inside the OnePlus 9, which is the exact same processor that's used in a lot of other Android flagships, such as the Galaxy S21. It utilizes a variation of the big little design that's basically standard on most mobile devices, including on iPhones. Put simply, it puts together 4 small, power-efficient CPU cores alongside 4 higher-performing cores. Basically, it uses those performance cores when it needs it, but it saves battery life when using the weaker cores when it doesn't. Makes sense, right? So this is a very powerful setup that works great on devices such as that Galaxy S21. But on the OnePlus, well, let's just say that shit is out of whack. What OnePlus have done here is that they have built a blacklist inside the operating system that will either throttle the performance cores or even prevents them from lighting up altogether in most apps. Which means that the real world ramifications of this is that if your phone sees you running a copy of Geekbench, for example, it'll run completely normally, your benchmark will be exactly what you would expect. But if you're running most other things like, oh, I don't know, Chrome, it will not light up those performance cores, meaning that you've paid money for a phone that is delivering only a fraction of the performance that it is actually capable of. When called out for this, OnePlus, they first gave a blanket statement on how they optimize for battery life, which just doesn't hold water, because even with this throttling, the OnePlus can't match the kind of battery life that Samsung is able to deliver with the exact same chip in the S21 line. Think about this if it were Apple who had done this. And Apple is a good analogy here because they have gotten into some serious shit for throttling phones secretly. So you might remember a few years ago, there was a lot of drama around the idea that some iPhones were losing performance. And the result of that was that Apple were secretly throttling the phones to keep them from basically pulling too much power from their old batteries and essentially crashing the phones. So they would slow the phone down and able to keep the phone at least usable, but in return, you were slowly losing performance without really understanding why. Now, that isn't great, and they then since have changed it where you can actually turn on and off that toggle in the settings. But at least that was for a reason. It was on older phones, and it was because the phones were literally crashing if they didn't do something about it. And to be fair, OnePlus has gone on to backtrack on this. So they have planned to add that exact same kind of toggle for like a performance selector. Look, I like OnePlus. They've gotten a pass for this in a way that basically no other company should have, in my opinion. I just can't in good conscience turn a blind eye to this. It's ridiculous, right? This is not an old phone that can't continue to work on an old battery. This is a brand new flagship that they are massively cutting the performance on to give you a little bit better battery life, but they didn't tell anyone. The only way anyone even knows about this is because a non-tech found it out and they were caught red-handed. Thank you to Keeps for sponsoring this video. Did you know that 2 out of 3 guys will experience some form of male pattern baldness by the time they're 35? With Keeps, a licensed doctor will review your information online and recommend the right hair loss treatment plan for you. Then your treatment is shipped directly to your door every 3 months. It's a more affordable option since Keeps offers generic versions of the FDA-approved medications for hair loss. Prevention really is key. Keeps treatments can take up to 4 to 6 months or more to start seeing results, so it's important to act fast. The sooner you start using Keeps, the more hair you'll save. If you're ready to take action to prevent hair loss, go to keeps.com/AustinEvans or click the link in the description to receive 50% off your first order. That's keeps.com/AustinEvans. So what exactly is going on with OnePlus? Now in those early days, they delivered excellent performance, value, and they were cool. By enthusiasts for enthusiasts was absolutely the vibe of how they positioned their first phone back in 2014, the OnePlus One. So this was a incredibly hyped phone. It's hard to understand how excited people were about this phone today. And we just so happen to have a brand new, still sealed in box OnePlus One to take a look at. All right, and we have the minty fresh OnePlus One, still with the plastic and the sandstone back. Wow. You know what immediately surprised me about this phone? It's thin. I've never held a OnePlus One before. This actually feels far thinner than I had expected. How does it stop battery? What? I did not expect that to work. And you know what? I mean, obviously this is not exactly a stress test, but I mean, the responsiveness doesn't feel bad, right? Like this does not feel like an ancient device. This is 4K video on the OnePlus One. So I'll let you, fine viewer, be the judge of how far camera quality has come. But let's just say, even by 2014 standards, this wasn't exactly amazing. From the very beginning, there were, let's just say, lingering questions about what the OnePlus company was all about. To understand, let me introduce BBK Electronics, a massive Chinese tech conglomerate that owns brands such as Oppo, Realme, Vivo, and OnePlus? Except, at least according to OnePlus at the time, they were definitely independent, right? Definitely. However, the CEO and co-founder of OnePlus, Pete Lau, had come straight from being the vice president of Oppo, one of those BBK brands, which was also the same company who directly invested in OnePlus and allowed OnePlus to share their supply chain and manufacturing space. So that beautiful new OnePlus One that took the tech world by storm, it bore an awfully interesting resemblance to the Oppo Find 7A from its very much not parent company. And quite a few of the follow-up devices ranged from sharing some parts to basically being identical hardware to Oppo devices. Android Central, all the way back in 2018, did a breakdown of mini OnePlus phones, and it's pretty clear that while OnePlus devices aren't just rebadged Oppo phones, but in many cases, it's hard to argue that there's a lot more than just a little sharing the supply chain going on. So there was a leak memo dated from June 2021 that spelled things out pretty clearly. The OnePlus brand has been integrated into Oppo since late 2020 and should be fully integrated by the end of 2021. OnePlus will continue to exist as a somewhat distinct brand. But to me, it's tough to see this as anything other than the plucky, the never settle startup being watered down and absorbed into the larger overall Oppo brand. In fact, we've already started to see this. They announced back in July that OnePlus's excellent clean Oxygen OS and Oppo's somewhat less clean Color OS would be merging their code bases. Look, there are advantages for OnePlus having access to the larger resources that come with being integrated into the Oppo BBK umbrella. But do you think that the price for growth can come at the cost of completely losing that for enthusiasts by enthusiasts mantra that made OnePlus such a cult hit in the first place? It's hard to see the future of OnePlus being anywhere near what it was in the past. They will continue to make phones. They are really Oppo and BBK's really only major foothold in the North American market, for example. But I don't think the soul of OnePlus is coming back. And anecdotally, a lot of the people who I've known at OnePlus for years have left over the last 6 to 12 months. It's not the same company that it once was. And it's fine. Enthusiast brands all around the world who are making these niche phones such as LG and Sony have been sort of ramping down their devices because at this point, if you're not Samsung, you're not OnePlus, you're not Xiaomi, it's difficult to really make a phone which is going to stand out. But OnePlus had that market and they had it for a very long time. And it's sad, honestly. It's sad to see the brand not go out with a bang, but almost with a whimper as it becomes generic. Business-wise, it's probably the right move. But for enthusiasts, for myself, for probably you, I don't think there's any other way to put it than OnePlus have settled.